Go.
What's going on, everybody? Greetings. My name is Austin Andrews.
Mike. I have reservations about saying my last name because people make Hitler jokes.
Oh, Jesus, you're right. Anyway, this is Tales from the Bottom of the Ocean, the greatest philosophy podcast in the known universe.
Reservations about saying my
greatness. You can consider yourself one of our divers for watching. That's what we're going to call our fans now. Some random guy I met
my lifelong friend, and you're a random stranger.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if our fan base is self-deprecating enough to accept bottom feeders.
Yeah, maybe they are.
And it doesn't help that I am myself and basically a bottom feeder. I'm a friggin' degenerate.
Jesus.
Not degenerate. What's the word I was looking for? Delinquent.
Fair enough.
And degenerate.
Consider funding Mike's delinquent lifestyle. Go over to patreon.com/area22.
Yeah, fund my cigar humidor, please.
$1 or $2, please. It all goes to Mike. He's the most downtrodden here. Don't even deny it. Yeah, I was going to say, don't even deny it. Anyway, so today we have with us Matt Newhall, the Technocrat.
Hello. How's it going?
How you doing, Matt?
It's really weird being a guest.
Is it actually?
I could be like, oh no, I'm not doing anything. I should be talking. No, really, I shouldn't. Continue.
So first question, always most important one. How are you doing? How's the family? How's everything?
Traffic sucks. Family's addicted to video games, and
traffic.
I also am a degenerate. So
Fair enough.
Are you a degenerate? You don't want to be left out.
Sometimes.
How much money did you spend on Warhammer memorabilia?
Like $80-something.
Oh.
hey, you got free stuff too, though.
Yeah, I did. So it could have been like 120, but
Also, you're driving around with he's driving around without a brake light. Pretty degenerate right there.
listen, if any NYPD officers heard that, just ignore it.
They won't do anything because we're not in New York City.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
Moving on.
so Matt, I brought you on here today
Hi.
to discuss.
We did that already.
to discuss philosophy, and I wanted to know. I want to know first off, like who are you, and more importantly, like what is or who is the Technocrat? So can you discuss the dichotomy between the two?
So that's a good question. I don't know. Who am I? I guess who I am. I'm passionately curious. I want to know how everything works. So here's my cover story for that. Essentially, I want to know how everything works. And there's a reason for it. Because if you know how everything works, then you know why people do the things they do. And I found a lot of stuff like that in life in general, that people's behaviors are just completely predictable depending on the situation they're in. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I don't want to say that it's not all about the peacocking, because who I am isn't about who everyone else is. But when I see people out there strutting their stuff and saying, I want to know why this terrible thing happened. And I'm like, do you really want to know why? Because I can tell you. And then they usually get mad at me. So, it's a lonely life.
No, yeah, I can. So it's kind of like because I feel as if most people really just want their bias confirmed instead of actually knowing what the root of the problem is.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And it's one of the things I love about computers in particular is they're very Old Testament. They're very unyielding. You can't lie to the computer and expect it to work. It will not work.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the mechanical world, you can use a fatigued metal or an inferior design. It'll work for a while, and then it'll fail catastrophically when you're not standing there.
Yeah.
But in the computer world, it either works or it doesn't.
It's direct input output. It's like a sort of direct action kind of thing.
Right. And just like a video game, when you're programming, it's the same thing. You can just have this feedback loop where you're giving it stuff and it's giving you stuff back, and you can adjust and temper and test. It's extremely scientific, and that gives me answers, and then I know why people do things.
Yeah. So it sounds like it takes a particular kind of temperament.
Yeah. You have to be. I mean, you have to be extremely patient.
Patient and willing to like actually learn.
Yeah.
Well, no, you will learn if you just stick to it. It's really just in a lot of ways it's just the patience. I mean, you have to be intelligent too. You can't. When you're facing a problem and there's a time limit, which if you move far enough up the ladder will happen, then you'll fail the test.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's an industry of puzzles, right? And some of them are time puzzles and some of them are not time puzzles. And you can get pretty far on the not time puzzles by just being persistent and patient.
Yeah.
But yeah, the time puzzles, there's no faking intelligence.
Yeah.
I did it. I took an IQ test to get into my high school. Oh my god, I completely BS the whole thing. Got into all 3 schools and they said my IQ is like 130. I'm like, no, it's not. I guessed.
Wait, so it's like multiple choice?
Yeah, they made
not really-
it was like a crappy version for like teenagers, but I
Okay.
still friggin' my IQ is probably like maybe 92.
Okay.
I ain't a smart guy.
Congratulations,
I
Mike.
almost got into an accident because I was too busy holding a hot bowl of soup.
Wait, an actual bowl?
No, it was a container, but I had a container of soup in my hand. Didn't look left. I almost got into an accident. Now, like 10 feet away from my house.
You should blame the software guy for that.
Contact customer support.
No hot soup bowl detection.
Exactly.
At least a computer, you could turn it on and turn it back off again and hope to God it works. Give it custom maintenance with a car.
That's actually something interesting. Like, does that... Like, we're gonna go on with the rest of the interview, but does that actually work? Like, what is that? What do you do when you just turn the computer off and on again?
It does work. Well, think about it. So you have code that starts up from the hard drive and the memory chip on the motherboard. When you turn it on, it cycles through exactly the same path, and then when it starts making different decisions is when it starts having software bugs.
Oh.
So it absolutely does work. The problem is you haven't really fixed the problem.
You're just asking to start from the beginning again.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Really, if you need something to work, you set up a computer to do one thing, not everything. Like people's phones will run everything in the world, and that's really why they crash all the time.
Yeah,
It's like ignoring the check engine light. I love when you see it, like you go up, you open up the hood, up the engine's still there. Why isn't the light going away?
So the dichotomy between like the sort of Matt Newhall and the Technocrat is like, what do you think that is then?
So I can kind of like get into the philosophy of the show a little bit, and that'll help figure out. So
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm not just a technocrat. In fact, I'm really not. It's kind of tongue in cheek. It's kind of like mocking the idea of a technocrat as someone behind the scenes who's making decisions for you. Every time a computer screws you up and messes with you, it is a decision that somebody made.
Yeah.
It may have been a decision where they decided to be cheap. They may have made a decision, like where they cut corners because they wanted to save time.
Yeah.
Or it may be a decision that they said, oh, this is how it should be. But yeah, there's a technocrat. So it's kind of it's satire. I mean, the truth is the show is really a philosophical and ethics show disguised as a technical show. And that's kind of how I am too, right? I mean, the how, I want to know the why. I don't care about the how in and of itself. The how is a means to an end for me. I want to know why people do the things they do. And understanding their cage helps you to figure out why they're pacing in it.
Yeah, the things that they can't really see, the language they can't really understand. You know
Right.
what you mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like Black Mirror, the podcast. That's kind of where I'm going with it.
I've never seen a single episode of that, honestly.
It's really dark and it's awesome.
What television show equates to our show? I can only imagine.
Jesus.
SpongeBob, I guess. Under the ocean.
SpongeBob is awesome, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of philosophical endeavors
There used to be.
in SpongeBob.
In the first 3 seasons, yeah, there was like Patrick was like the wise but like book idiot.
Yeah.
That wasn't a very good phrase, book idiot, but I think you know what I mean.
No, yeah.
Book idiot.
That's what Patrick would say.
Yeah.
Pink, when in doubt, pinky out. Dude.
Yeah, there's actual.
Copyright struck. Anyway.
I thought the show's name was a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea reference until I found out you never read that book.
No. So Matt, do you have an educational background in terms of technology?
Yeah, so I have an associate's in computer science, and I was planning on going for my bachelor's, and I was promptly snapped up by a tech company. It was the .com days, and companies were hiring like crazy. I mean, they said, how does this look? And I went, okay, I'm in. And that was it. And that was the end of my college career. So I have an associate's in computer science. I study lots of weird stuff, though. I mean, I study economics. I study. I've been into politics since it was naturally young.
Yeah.
I love vehicles. I love anything mechanical. I love anything computerized. I just want to know how stuff works.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But what do you think of the field of technology in terms of education? Is it what kind of usefulness is there to get a quality education, say the technical?
So computer science degrees are useful. I think they're still useful, because the thing is, what you're doing is you're taking it from the highest level, kind of abstract sense. So you can write a piece of code that you're going to put on a satellite, and you're going to send the satellite into space, and if you make one mistake, you can't reboot the thing. Remember what you're saying about, does rebooting work?
Yeah.
There is no reboot.
It's just up there.
I mean,
until it
actually,
comes down.
the safe mode came from satellites. That's where they,
Really?
yeah, that's where originally it was being used. So they have the most unmanned devices that go up into space have a safe mode.
What does that do?
Oh, well, it basically, if it misses a check mark or a check-in or a checkpoint, it reboots itself into safe mode, so that you have a chance of maybe starting from the beginning of the code again and fixing the problem. What?
He's asking what is safe mode.
Oh, what is safe mode?
Well, I mean, I guess both, but yeah.
No, safe mode is You guys never went to Windows safe mode before?
I don't think so, no.
I just restart the
Are you guys
computer.
Mac guys or you Windows guys?
I have a Windows.
I mean, I just splash a bucket of water on it, hope it works.
I just smacked the hell out of it.
Right.
No, no,
Just,
what is safe mode?
pour wine on it and hope it becomes sentient.
Yeah, exactly. And sophisticated.
Yeah. So safe mode is when you know how you're saying when you reboot, does that work?
Yeah.
Well, if you reboot and the computer senses that you rebooted a few times, or the file system's no good, or there's an error in the file system, like a flag is set, or a driver doesn't work, or something like that, like the computer can't talk to a piece of hardware it knows is there, it goes into safe mode and tries to repair it from there.
Oh.
So it's like a separate set of code with less bells and whistles, but that are less likely to go wrong.
Oh.
It may have done it and you didn't see it.
Yeah, maybe. I think I've
Yeah.
seen it like operating in safe mode or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. All right.
Wow. Well, I'm such a nerd. I'm like, oh yeah, everyone knows what safe mode is. Do you don't?
Listen, like I said,
I definitely a nerd.
Well,
I-
we're
I-
Generation Z. We can't be fucked to read.
Right?
yeah, I pushed the
Hey, I
button
thought there
and
was
it
no
worked.
cursing on here. What's up with that?
Yeah, we could curse a little bit.
No fucking cursing, Mike. Come on.
What have I done?
All right, so Matt, we're gonna get into more serious stuff now.
Go for
More
it.
serious stuff.
So
You don't scare me.
So
Any convictions?
well, hold on.
No, we're kidding.
No, I've never been caught. Doesn't mean I didn't do interesting stuff.
But how do you in a sort of brief summary, how would you maybe describe your upbringing to the world? How has it sort of shaped your worldview now?
Oh, okay. So my mom was a single mother and actually fairly feminist, which is fairly left leaning, although always kind and religious. My father and my mother were estranged, and they got divorced when I was 3, so I barely knew him.
Yeah.
I know him now as an adult, but yeah, I'm kind of brilliant woman, had an MBA. Yeah. Well, I mean, she worked really hard. She had nothing. She had no degrees when they got divorced. So life was a struggle. My grandma got cancer, and when I was a kid, so I remember sitting home playing Atari 2600 when my mom was dealing with medical bills and stuff like that. It was. It seems pretty heavy, but I really admire my mom and all that she did to not only to help her community, but to help me and to help the people around her. She was a teacher. She was one of the representatives for the teachers union in her schools. She was a nonstop machine, and I guess I got to see practically how much hard work really mattered. Like sometimes it isn't even about being the hardest worker and winning some kind of competition. Sometimes it's just about not giving up and getting up again. Yeah. And that was one of the things that she taught me. So she also taught me some practical stuff about economics, like economy of scale, and the clean room technique that was used in Compaq for the reverse engineering the Compaq BIOS, which was critical to the IBM PC, which is why we all run PCs and Macs, and probably even partly responsible for the cell phone.
Definitely know what all that means.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
That one I knew. The Atari.
All right, the Atari 2600, where
Tales
you
of the Bomb-Yost was
smash
filmed in front of a live
pixels
studio
and other
audience.
pixels. And
E.T. was a horrible game.
yes, I had ET, and I did play it to frustration.
They have it at the Cradle of Aviation. They have a whole, I don't know if it's still there. I really hope it is. They had a whole retro game exhibit. They had a big television just for E.T.
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, this is the shittiest game in the world. Why do you have it?
That's amazing.
So economy of scale is actually pretty easy. Economy of scale is just when you make more of something, it's cheaper.
Oh, Yeah.
So like if you make 10 baseball mitts, you're probably going to hand make them. If you're going to make 10,000 baseball mitts, you're going to build a machine. If you make 1,000,000 baseball mitts, you're probably going to build a really good machine.
a whole culture of baseball mitts.
Right. So that's what economy of scale is. But it's super critical. You can't understand anything about what's happening in the world without economy of scale.
Yeah.
And learning that from a young age kind of melted my brain.
So how do you think that changed you into like how do you think that
What
affected
you are now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know. I guess.
Well, because can I share like a personal experience?
Sure, go for it.
Like when I was learning about sort of I pondered a lot how time sort of worked. Like when I was a kid, I pondered that, and I pondered like how sort of existence and being and sort of life and death kind of works, and then that kind of shaped my sort of perception of the world because
Yeah, I know. Spending all your time thinking about time.
yeah, no, like no, it's
Does that really
interest-
happen?
No, it's interesting because it gave me a sort of it made me realize how like events kind of in your life are pretty isolated, you know what I mean? Like they happen sometimes to everybody. Like that was kind of like my justification for being bullied a lot as a kid. I was like, when I fully realized how people, it just happened, you know, like when I realized like this really does just happen, it kind of helped me kind of get over it.
Yeah.
But you know, like and that stemmed from my understanding that like the universe is kind of ongoing and, you know, sort of endless, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of what I mean. Like like those presuppositions that I had established as a kid really did help me shape how I parsed information.
Gosh, as a nerd. I don't think everybody in school was getting bullied. I mean, some people bullied.
No, I was definitely bullied. I had huge problems, and actually, it was. So this is where. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I just want to make the preface. I was one of the bullies. I was bullied too, but then I didn't take it no more.
Well, that's it, man. That's the key. What a difference it makes when you're bullied and then it stops, and then you make a decision and that has some kind, even the slightest influence on it stopping.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, wow, the power that you realize that you have.
Yeah.
You know, I was raised a pacifist. So my problem stemmed from a philosophical one. I was actually taught a lesson which was not practical. And so so I'm having been taught some weird broken things when I was younger, and then basically having my balls drop and finding heavy metal, you know, and I was just like, what am I doing? This doesn't work at all. Yeah. And you know, ever since, although maybe I couldn't have articulated it then, but now I know. Pragmatism, you know. I mean, that's one of the things I love about being American, and is that we basically own that. We own pragmatism, and that's pretty much who I am.
What does pragmatism mean to you?
Just if it doesn't work, it's crap. If it doesn't work, it's useless.
It's Scheitzen.
Yeah. I mean, you can, and I'm not saying that an exploration of ideas isn't super important, but you also got to, test their metal too.
I mean, pacifism works on some people, but some people don't listen to that. So you just gotta.
It works on most people, but that's not enough. It has to be everybody.
You gotta get pugilist on some people.
Right.
Yeah.
So in my younger life, that's what probably my defining moment was.
Realizing that like some
my
things
first
just don't
Megadeth
work.
album, and and getting some hair in the field. I was yeah.
You realize basically
Turf.
Well, that was kind of like the first step of the Technocrat, I guess, because you realize that some things just don't work.
Yeah, it doesn't. And I mean, I had been a computer geek since I was little. I had the first IBM PC in my house.
Cool.
So yeah, back when everybody else was on VICs and Commodores, I had a PC. So learning DOS at that young age, I mean, those commands are burned in there. There's not. I couldn't unlearn them if I tried.
Wait,
it's like your first home phone number.
Pause on the
that.
interview for a second. Has DOS ever changed from its current aesthetic? Like, has it ever changed visually?
60 to 70% of it is the same. So
I don't mean
for light tasks.
Yeah, no, but I don't mean in like code. Has it stayed visually the same?
Back then you were typically looking at a amber or a monochrome. You're looking at a monochrome monitor. It was either amber or green screen.
Oh.
So yeah, it was like how you have a box,
like the black box with the little backslash.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Really,
It's like a light bright.
That's really cool.
Remember light
Yeah,
brights?
except that's all there was.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I find it interesting that they didn't really swap it out for anything aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, well, because usually most people when they go there,
They know exactly what they're doing.
It's broken,
Oh.
and it's one of those things where it's a time puzzle, and
Oh.
every new thing you learn takes time.
I think it'd also kill your eyes if it was if it had like a lot of blue light emitting from it, or if it was just like really colorful. Eventually, you'd get sick of looking.
I saw
at
this one video that Oni was playing like this, like Oni games. He was playing like this one, like the very old Hobbit games for like the old PCs, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was nothing but blue light. It was just a blue light and like white text. It's crazy. But you mentioned
Or
that.
Zorn, that typing game.
Yeah, it was a typing game. But anyway, on with the interview once more. Skip that.
He lost track.
No, I know where I am. Jeez, I was just gonna skip that one. But what are your? I guess we kind of talked about this. What are some things that you hold like to such a staunch degree in your heart that are to be true? Like some axioms.
Axioms. Okay. Actually, I hold axioms true to my heart. So one of the things that I've done since I was younger, and it actually started just as a practical thing. This is like computers melting into philosophy.
Yeah.
Right. Do you feel that?
Hurricane Nigel.
Hurricane night.
Delayed reaction.
You were still in frame. You were in frame. You guys were in frame. I don't know what else.
So there's this great program in Linux called Fortune,
Go on.
and essentially it was something. It was like Linux command line for old DOS heads. It was like, oh, look at all these extra programs I get, and like it would create these. It would drop a lot of axioms as its output. So you just type Fortune, and it would give you a quote from someone. And a lot of these quotes are axioms from famous people from books and things, because it was something that they could do for free that open source didn't have a licensing issue with.
Cool.
Because it's fair use. So I just started collecting these axioms and testing them and trying to see if they ever were untrue. So I actually have a huge pile of axioms in a file on my computer, and I've just been systematically weeding out the ones that were ever untrue. And so
So you're basically like playing the role of your own brain.
right, sort of.
If you know what I mean.
I'm grading real life compared to my understanding of the world. I'm doing that comparison, and I love axioms, man. Everybody should do this. Everybody should write down a list of their favorite axioms and keep testing them. And if they're ever untrue, you gotta let it go.
I mean.
What's the worst axiom you've ever heard?
Oh yeah, go on.
I don't even know.
That's good.
I don't even know. It'd be too terrible to even say.
Yeah.
I've been pretty good at picking them. Sometimes one will whittle away. It's just like, yeah, I can't really consider this one true anymore.
It's painful when you have to let them go, isn't it?
Yeah, it is because it's part of you, and but like I said, most of them have stayed. So
What about Boys Will Be Boys? I know that's one of them that's definitely going away.
right, yeah, that's a good example. That's a pretty bad one.
Well, what does that mean? Like,
It means like a guy, like two boys have an argument, they beat the shit out of each other, and then there you go, it's over. We can't do that anymore because it's not safe. It isn't safe, and it's not okay to keep
that axiom's it's dumb because it's dumb. It's too simple.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question. Like,
like I would look at it and I'd be like, testosterone, duh.
Yeah, but is there anything else you need? We're simple creatures.
Right. But I mean, that testosterone's it. When that maybe a little adrenaline, maybe there's some other hormones involved. The growth hormone, for example.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of it is just if you change the genetics and you change the chemical formula in the bloodstream, I also know that the way our brains work, the decision making that we partake in, a lot of it is chemical. A lot of it is just the chemistry of the chemicals in our bloodstream.
But then, if Boys Will Be Boys, and it has to do with chemicals, doesn't it make sense then that boys will be boys?
Yeah, but
it seems like it seems
you know
to
what?
be making
It's like that Einstein. Here's an axiom for you. It's like that Einstein quote. Make things as simple as possible, not simpler than possible. It's a little simpler than possible.
Simpler than possible.
Right.
Oh, okay. So make it practically simple. No.
Yeah. Make it as simple as you can without it becoming distorted or untrue.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So sometimes the axioms are really long.
So like
I got a fun axiom. One of the axioms I learned that I like the most is from The Big Lebowski.
Go on.
When Walter says, "You make a plan too complicated, anything could go wrong." I like that idea. If you make the plan too complicated, it has to have steps. But if it's so complicated, you have no room to breathe. You're gonna.
That honestly sounds like something that Dwight D. Eisenhower said, where he was
I'm sure. Yep. Yeah.
No, he said no. Listen, he said. I think it was Dwight Eisenhower, but he said basically I've always found that planning is. The plans never survive the first initial engagement, but planning itself is essential.
Or it's like everyone has a plan to get hit in the face.
Exactly.
Oh, I forgot who said that.
That's probably fair. That might make the list.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, yeah.
Yep, Mike Tyson.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
Yes. You guys ever get hit in the face before?
Yeah, 1,000 times. I do boxing and judo. I get hit in the face every.
Man.
I don't
you're like
there goes my idea.
I've never been in a fight actually. If I'm honest.
Want to be in one?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So actually,
I knocked my friend's tooth loose.
Blood from the bottom of the ocean.
Cringe from the bottom of the ocean, more like.
Is this the effect I have on people? Now I'm starting to understand things a little more.
Oh, jeez.
Studio with you and Mark and Nigel, it gets kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Let me ask you a question. Is there a? I guess we can go more into axioms, but let me just ask you this: is there any? What's one that you like so very very closely associate yourself with, and how do you justify its legitimacy?
Well, I mean, so I would call this a core axiom. Actually, I was just thinking about it before. This is not the core axiom, but a core axiom would be any Armour's axiom is true. I think anything that can go wrong will. Which is kind of a variant of the Big Lebowski or even Dwight, Yeah. So I think that's so in other words, you got to be prepared for the unexpected, and a lot of it is another one that's unequivocally true that pops in my head. I thought I would use this because I thought you might ask about axioms.
Cool.
It's not a core one for me, but I mean the problem is there's hundreds, so it's too simple for that to be a core axiom. But going to the garage doesn't make you a Christian anymore. Going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than going to the garage makes you a car.
That's
That was Lawrence J. Peter. So that's another one. So a lot of these are quotes, but not all of them.
Well, I mean that quote of itself can be boiled down to just the very idea of belief and association.
I mean, I hang out in my garage all the time, and just last week I learned how to pump my own gas.
What? Never mind. Never mind.
Well, now I like pumping my own gas.
Yeah, it's empowering.
Yeah, it's I guess.
First.
Yeah, it's growing on me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Until you splash
it seems
gasoline
like
on your arm.
No, I like the smell of gas.
Ew.
it seems like if anything goes right, like it seems like
Too good to be true.
Yeah, you know what? I have blitzkrieg karma. So this is kind of like a weird thing. It isn't an axiom, but it's actually a core philosophy. Usually, my life's incredibly fair. If something bad has happened to me, I almost always deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky in that because you know what? This is an axiom. Life is unfair. And actually, I'm really glad that life is unfair because if life was fair, that means that everything bad that happened to you, you deserved. That's terrible. That's like the worst. That's like the definition of hell.
It's interesting that you say that because we were talking about like
Oh yeah, we were.
Well, no, let me think. I'm thinking if I should really get into it.
Pause for
You might as
introspection.
well.
Well, I was gonna
Please
say,
hold
like,
introspection.
No, I was gonna say we were talking about the idea of intersectionality before.
Right.
And that's
Yeah, you want to go there? Okay, we could go there.
Wait, hold on, just for a second, because I still got the rest of this front left. But we were talking about like the idea of I always sort of label it, and I actually do have this as one of the bullets here, but the idea of freedom and justice.
Right.
Like the sort of dichotomy between those things.
Right.
I feel as if like they actually do exist somewhat separate from each other. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like the idea of you getting exactly what you deserve, like, I feel as if that's definitely like an idea that's kind of
That impedes on your freedom.
I have anticipated your question.
Oh, really?
Yes. We didn't plan this, I swear. This is not scripted. So,
Look how it says
another testimony, this is not scripted. So, freedom is a cooperative model of non-interference, the promise of non-interference in exchange for a return of the same. That's exactly what I think it is.
Okay, can you repeat that?
Yeah, sure, no problem. A cooperative model. I had to write this down because this is actually
it's complicated.
A bunch of stuff from a scientific theory I have called SIVGene, and a lot of my philosophies actually come from that. And it wasn't what I started out to do, and I realized that's not philosophy isn't science.
Yeah.
But what I did is I came up with a scientific theory, and I told a bunch of people about it, and they went, that's nice, whatever. Because I don't have 4 PhDs from whatever.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, and I started trying to flush out the philosophy of what the implications of these theories were.
Yeah.
And that's when it got really hectic. So this one's actually is social science, as much as social science can be a science, is intended to be a science.
But you said basically.
So a cooperation model of
Yeah.
non-interference.
Okay.
So in other words, a cooperative model of non-interference. In other words, I'm not going to interfere with what you're doing. You're not going to interfere with what I'm doing, and the promise in exchange and a promise of non-interference for a return of the same.
Okay.
And actually, what this is meant to be is meant to be a distinction from how animals act. So the closest thing that animals do is treaty, which is a stalemate or a mutual temporary cessation of conflict to avoid overexertion. So animals.
I said that
We
because
were talking about that,
We
yeah.
had gone over. I said the idea that moral consequence isn't
Inherent.
I
To
had
the
said that
universe.
was stupid because the precursor to morality was animals not doing things in order to not overexert.
To conserve energy.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I think that whole shtick.
It's hard to be into Darwin and not see that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are like, I am a science person. It's like, yeah, you need to go read Darwin again.
Because a lot of the thing is, a lot of the reason why science is so kind of stale, I think these days, even if it is interesting, is people took the philosophy out of it. Especially like with like Neil deGrasse Tyson and like Bill Nye, they have such a negative view on philosophy. It makes no sense because the best scientists on Earth had a philosophical view of things,
Well,
and then that drove their science.
Well, I think it's just people taking the idea of secularism kind of too far, but yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could. Well, everything can be taken too far,
Yeah.
That's true,
No,
too.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And this is why you constantly test things.
And that's why science is the way it is, because religion and by part of that philosophy took it too far way back in like the 1400s. And like all these crusades, like everything the church has done. Everyone knows the church has done some questionable things, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like retaliation from that. But they could end up going down the same rabbit hole.
There's rabbit holes everywhere. You gotta
Yeah,
watch
there
where you
are.
step.
Right. So
That's a good axiom.
I wanna. Yeah. That's true. Okay, I'll put it on my list and see if it holds up.
Put it in the vault.
I'll put it in the vault and see if it self-destructs. Yeah, so I was thinking about an earlier question. So I told you the childhood philosophy, which was economy and scale, and the clean room technique and understanding how those things worked.
Yeah.
And then I think in the middle was Linux and open source. Seeing open source community and saying this shouldn't work. These people aren't getting paid. How is this happening?
Okay.
Right? And that was the argument that was used against it, and it was leveraged really successfully. And there was a lot of like fear, uncertainty, and doubt campaigns against Linux. That's where, I mean, honestly, that was the first place I saw that in any kind of scale against Linux. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And then, I figured out how open source worked, and that made sense to me. And then later in life, more recently, I actually realized, psychopaths actually have a completely different behavior set than other human beings.
Yeah.
And any kind of economics or philosophy or sociology or anthropology or politics or anything that doesn't take into account that there are two separate behavior sets that are doing different things is never going to make accurate predictions all of the time.
Okay, so basically what you're saying, I'm trying to parse that information correctly. So basically what you're saying is that
so that's the whole picture.
Yes. Yeah, so basically
I'm
what
warming
you're saying
up
is
here.
that no, I get you. So the acknowledgement of a dichotomy of opposing forces is necessary in order to
and it's really normal for
human
species.
behavior.
It's normal for species to have two groups of the same species have different behaviors, and for them to interact and have almost a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. No, I'm listening to you.
It's just the door.
Elvis has left the building.
But like, no, I see that. I honestly see that everywhere. There's a sort of duality of everything, in my opinion.
When Nigel walked
No,
out,
I was kind of scared, less like you.
I'm like, what? How did this happen?
It's funny because they're the same height.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys don't see what's going on, but don't worry about it.
Behind the scenes.
But, yeah, seriously. While the
We're here
show's
to
going
entertain you, and they are here to entertain us.
on- Seriously.
The
It's
people
like a
in my
show.
head.
It's like we're watching a show and you guys are watching a show. It's pretty nuts.
It's rabbit holes.
Oh yeah.
It's like Plato's cave, right?
careful
Well,
where you
we
step.
see the shadows and we think we know what's going on, but we don't.
Then they pull the wool from over.
That was an eye opener for me, Plato's cave. If
Oh,
you don't, if people don't know that one, definitely look it up. It's worth the allegory of the cave.
Plato
know.
was on some. Next
Yeah.
books. Yeah. There's seriously.
Yeah, well, the trippy thing is, I think he may have predicted some of the Sibgene stuff. He had a lot of diatribes about. I might have mispronounced that. Sorry. About friendship, and and honestly, I think he was right, and it just doesn't make any sense without the context of psychopaths. But in the context, it's like, I get what you're saying. Okay.
Honestly, like doing philosophy. Shut up. Doing philosophy is so fun, but like. Yeah, it's just really entertaining.
It makes me wonder what the world would be like if everyone was a psychopath.
Yeah,
wait,
it would be pretty boring.
Well,
It would
there's
just
a-
be violent and abrupt.
There's a lot of mics.
There's actually a comic, if anybody of the viewers are interested, like to really just gross themselves out, called Cross. I was scrolling through Pinterest once and I saw some like related images of them, and God, it's the most awful, horrendous thing I've ever seen. Honestly,
What is this?
it's a comic book series called Crossed,
Yeah.
and it's just absolutely awful. It's apparently well written and
Right.
kind of well received, but it's
Well,
it's
so
just the
this
worst.
is
It's
one of the
gory.
things that I
it's very
think.
gory and it's very horrendous.
Like Sin City. Or Spin City. I don't
No, it's
remember.
worse. It's worse than anything
Worse?
you've ever seen, dude.
Oh.
Don't look it up. If I
I'm
honestly,
about to look it up right now.
Yeah, this is the context that
just
people
don't show me a
typically
picture.
go into with psychopaths. And actually, I think psychopaths are highly logical. I think they're more like Vulcans. Well, it's just that sometimes the context they're in, their choices are whittled down to kill or be killed.
seriously.
Undertow.
Yeah.
But
If society actually accommodated them, it would be.
yeah.
Oh, this isn't so bad.
There's some gnarly
Oh, it's
stuff.
getting a little worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
that's normal. Yeah.
Damn, there's some nudity in
That
here.
doesn't look kosher.
Don't show
doesn't
me.
look kosher.
Please don't show me any of that.
Yo, look.
Please, I don't want to see any
not
of
kosher.
that. It was so bad.
Yeah, getting a little Silent Hill.
Yeah, but anyway,
Dear Lord.
even worse. Matt, what do you think that Jesus?
We've lost Steve.
What do you think? What do you think the source of human knowledge and assuredness is actually?
Human knowledge and assuredness.
We kind of talked about this, and I think.
Well, our memory sucks. I mean, it's as a matter of science, it's demonstrably bad.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I think this is one of the reasons that people seem to be people are more engaged now, even if it isn't always the outcome isn't always good, because they have this this brain extension. In their pockets, so they can actually look things up and check things and see what's true. But I mean, we're just terrible at. So really, I think a lot of it is how we treat people, which is reflected back in how they treat us, and also what we write down, or what we archive. Like this will be there forever. Once it's on the internet, it's there forever.
Yep.
So, what we write down, or what we video record, or what we audio record of our thoughts and our or what we write. That's really what that's the solidity of human knowledge.
Basically, what we
fleeting
create.
feelings and that kind of hey, I feel like doing this and I feel like doing that. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, did it happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Someone can live a very noble life in the woods alone, and if nobody's there to see it and they don't write it down, who's to know?
Yeah.
Right?
Wasn't that the sort of idea behind transcendentalism or something like that?
Well, I mean, it depends if it depends if you have some kind of supernatural faith that there's forces that can see what's happening above and beyond what we can perceive.
Yeah.
So that completely changes it. Right, so a lot of philosophical questions. If you can't answer the question of what is faith and how do you deal with it, not saying you have to have faith in anything. Just what is faith and how do you deal with the supernatural? Then the philosophy quickly breaks down.
I mumbled that really hard. I asked him, wasn't that the purpose behind transcendentalism?
Oh, they said it.
Wait, you heard me?
Yeah.
I heard you because I'm right here, but you did.
I did really mumble. I sometimes get afraid because I do mumble really hard.
No, that's all right.
But like, what about human?
This is deep stuff, man. You can send someone out. I think about it. Someone who's intelligent enough to understand what we're talking about listens to what
Miguel.
listens to what or crazy enough to listen to understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, someone could kill themselves. Someone could decide to end their life. Someone could go off another. I mean, you can't hold yourself responsible for that. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, don't do that.
This stuff can be heavy, man. This is gonna be really like my life is meaningless.
We could be the next catcher in the rye.
And
Holden.
Well, none of us. It's just the fact that who's going to kill the next big,
believe it or not, I'm going to tie this back around.
Let's erase that from existence. We are not catcher in the rye.
I'm sorry, Matt. What were you going on?
No, it's fine. No, it's okay. Actually, I'm tying this back to the last question. What? Now I forgot what I was just saying.
Human.
Oh yeah, how do you treat people? Right. So this is why it's so important to treat people well, because you don't know what the consequences are if you don't. You don't know what they've been through. I teach my kids to say thank you, not because people say you should, not because someone taught me to tell them that, because I'm like, you never know what someone went through.
No, like listen,
you don't know what was going on in their life 1 minute ago. They could have just had the worst experience of their life, and they're still there for you and doing something nice.
Listen, this is what I really mean when I talk. Like when I get really cynical about a lot of things because like I wonder if people will ever really understand. Like, listen. I know, like, people need to understand that they have their own sort of kind of like axioms, obviously, but they got to understand like how is this translating outwardly into the world, and how is it going to affect people that are somewhat like you? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that you
resonate with. Yeah. Even if they don't understand how the resonation works, it may still resonate with them.
Yeah, like you gotta kind of understand how like obviously there are people who are like us. I guess you get nerds or people who do podcasts or whatever.
Passionate.
Are you trying to call me a nerd?
Passionately curious.
Passionately curious people, and like the reason I obviously sort of watch what I say, watch where I step. Watch what I do, because it's not even because necessarily I want to save face for myself. It's because I also want to. I also want to express myself as a good agent if you're going to consider me part of like part of like a certain group. You know what I mean? Like, because obviously there are
Right.
people who will lump you in with whatever they think is
Yeah, that happened to me a lot. Like I hung out with one person. I hardly play video games. I hung out with the one person who was like the top gamer on gamer score on whatever friggin' Xbox 360 in school, and like, oh, those are the video game kids. I'm like, I'm just hanging out with one person.
Yeah, you really gotta.
People both give themselves labels and give others labels.
Yeah.
Way too easy.
I agree with that.
You really do have to, but I mean that's something I feel is we can't really, unfortunately, escape. We can implore people to try to think openly,
Right.
but in the end, I think the best thing that we can do is just act well.
If people know
ourselves,
themselves, it solves a lot of the problems.
Yeah.
You know, like if they know what they, like I just feel like this person resonates with me versus I understand what they're saying and I'm adopting it. Very different.
Yeah.
But people treat it the same. It's weird.
It's a rabbit hole, dude.
Yeah, it is a rabbit hole.
It's a can of worms. It's a can of rabbit holes.
It's a can of rabbit holes. That's more like my Axiom collection.
Let's see.
Do you fall down worms then? They switch places.
Okay, so no, it's like the Sarlacc. No, that's Sarlacc pit. Yeah, it's like the Sarlacc pit where you fall into a hole and then into a worm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Or the when the Millennium Falcon's about to get eaten by that asteroid worm or whatever.
Space slug, I believe they called it.
Space.
Whatever, some kind of disgusting.
How
slime thing,
unimaginative.
things.
Anyway.
I know, right?
For everything Star Wars did that was imaginative, there was two that wasn't.
Yeah. So Matt, I believe in my heart that there is a sort of uniform direction to not only the universe, but since humans are part of the universe, to human beings themselves.
Okay.
So I think that
Why not? Sure.
yeah. So I think it came from me studying chemistry, which I really did enjoy up until it started getting hard. Of the idea of equilibrium in systems, and I don't really see why our universe is just one big system, and why we would necessarily be exempt from those rules that apply to it. You know.
Okay.
So and as a result, I think the constant push towards equilibrium that all molecules have is real. It's a fact that we can measure. I think that human behavior, in a way, can also be attributed to pursuing that goal. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, like we were saying before, animals don't want to spend energy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're animals too. We don't want to spend a lot of energy on something that has no yield.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you got to choose your battles. If you choose every battle, you're going to have a very interesting and very brief life.
Yeah.
You're not going to last very long at all.
Yeah.
The shortest marriages are the most passionate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds really accurate.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I was wondering, what you think?
Sometimes you just got to lose.
I was wondering, like, I'm just kind of picking your brain. Like, what do you think about that idea?
I think it's great. I don't have a problem with it. That may be true. I'll fall back on Einstein. You'd think I was obsessed with Einstein, but I'm really not. I just, I don't believe God would choose to play dice with the universe.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate that quote because they're like, look, he said God in a science quote. But I mean, the guy was a Jew too. He never renounced it. So.
Yeah. In fact, the interesting thing, now that you mentioned that, was they say that the Nazis or Nazi Germany could have pursued like nuclear technology.
Oh,
but
totally. They would have won the war.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they hadn't scapegoated the Jews, now of course you could argue they never would have came to power because they couldn't have done it without a scapegoat because that's how totalitarianism is. You need a loser to
exactly.
project the winners, right? But
There's no one else to use.
they were definitely the most prominent group that was non-native Germans at the time. So they were going to do that. But let's imagine a world where somehow they didn't.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to do, but yeah, I mean, then maybe they could have won. They would have had the scientists that cracked the problem that they needed. I mean, they had lots of great scientists. We really dodged a bullet. The planet dodged a bullet in World War II. We were almost unlucky so badly.
We even captured a lot of their scientists and used them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the V2 rocket program. I know we captured one. I actually know his name. His name was Werner von Braun. We captured him and had him work on our rocket programs.
The thing that drives me, like people love to talk about World War II and they forget about the context that without World War One, it never would have happened. Yeah. And World War II is a lot. This is important because we basically impoverished Germany until everybody was insane. Like literally a whole industrialized country went insane because we were punishing them after World War One.
Yeah.
You know, and their money hyperinflated. People were killing themselves left and right, and that left it ripe for that economic dislocation left it ripe for abuse.
Honestly, a lot of stuff like that can be easily explained with socioeconomics.
Right. Well, this is again the how is the why, and then people are like, why, and I'm like, that doesn't really match the how.
What the nature of evil? It sometimes really does just boil down to what you're not eating at night.
Right. Yeah. Well, people are everyone. Maslow, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you have your basics, hots and a cot, and everything's taken care of, you start thinking about deeper issues. If you don't, you just think about that.
Oh yeah. No, that's actually interesting because like the companies, the countries that tend to be the most environmentally conscious are the first world ones.
Right. The more money you have, the more you worry about the planet. The less money you have, the less you do.
Exactly.
Yep. For sure.
It is very interesting.
As far as uniformity, I don't dispute it. It's I do think that there probably are multiple Big Bangs, not because I have any evidence, but just because it would stand to reason that usually when things could be one or many, I tend to think that there's many, because what are the odds that the amount of matter in the singularity before the Big Bang was the exact right amount of matter to explode. So there's probably multiple universes with multiple physics and multiple rules, and time moves different in them.
Yeah.
So if you were ever to travel far enough that you were going to get to the edge of our universe and try to travel into another one, time might move backwards, time might move faster, physics might break down.
Apart.
You might be instantly shredded because the physics are different.
Yeah, and your body's built for a particular kind of physics.
Yep. Exactly.
It
it might slowly transition as you try to go between them, and things slowly get worse
Is that
and
a
worse.
horrible thought? You cross over, and instead of shredding apart, you expand. And you keep expanding until you consume the entire spectrum. That'd be terrifying.
of all forms of existence.
Yeah, like it's you. You are now the universe because you did that.
Look at you! Look what you've done. No, but gonna put a pin on the interview for a second because I know we're running out of time, and I have so many things.
Sure, go. I'll try to lighten you around it.
No. Okay, so interesting thing. Like, this is just something I wanted to tell you because this is something I came up with. I have came up with the same idea of there being multiple Big Bangs, and how the Big Bang could have just happened to us multiple times. And I had an interesting.
That's probably true too.
Yeah, and I had an interesting idea that my father actually brought up to me. He said, what if the Big Bang... He basically just looked at me and said, what if the Big Bang happened several times and we're just like... But what if it's just happened and nothing really ever changed from the last one? What if you're the same Matt Newhall that's sitting here right now? After the next cycle, you'll just be you again.
That's a JoJo reference.
Oh, well, that would be the ultimate uniformity, right?
Yeah. But one thing I thought of like recently was that some species of animal have chemical memory where if they consume their children will inherit memories. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking wouldn't it be interesting if you could literally inherit the memories from the last cycle essentially?
Oh, okay. So if there was some what we would consider to be supernatural, but a logical set of forces that we don't currently understand that would allow your memories to transfer from one universe to the next.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, so here I'm a Christian, but I can also make every argument I ever make as an atheist, which I've never heard anyone else make that claim. And and occasionally I'll run into something from another religion. I'm like, that's got to be true. And I think this is an old adage about the blind monks touching an elephant, and each one of them is touching a different part of the elephant. Yeah. And everyone's describing it's a snake. No, it's a tree. No, and it's just it's all the same elephant. They don't realize, right? Yeah. So I think it's very much like that, and it's very arrogant to assume you know everything about a supernatural all-knowing being or anything even approximating that, or look how much smarter than we are than a chipmunk. Of course it's going to know things we don't know. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean all knowledge is equally useful.
Well, no, and then all knowledge is not equally useful, and some of it's just going to, poor God has all the trivia in his mind.
Okay, so two last lightning things.
Sure, shoot.
If you can just make a short statement to the entire world, everybody understands, what would you say?
be excellent to one another and party on, dudes? Oh no, that's Bill and Ted. No, sorry.
And lastly, I probably should have asked that one after that one. But what do you think of that? What do you think of that short story? I have no. It wasn't short. I have no mouth and I must scream.
I don't know it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Read it. All of you read it too. Okay.
I have no mouth. Okay.
Check it out. It's like one of the first like real sci-fi horror like stories.
Great.
But
That's my everyday life.
but thank you so much. We're out of time, Matt.
All right, great. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Yeah, it was very fun. I hope to see you again soon
Okay.
on the show. But anyway, Tales from the Bottom of the Ocean. We had a wonderful time, Mike. I hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah, yo, I did.
Consider-
yo. Yes, I did.
Consider going to our Patreon, patreon.com/area22. Donate if you like the content that you've seen. Check me out. Yeah, check me out. I'm going to be streaming later tonight on twitch.tv/saltycgaming, and maybe I'll play some more Mordhau. That was really fun. Next up is the jump cut. See you, everybody. We're going down.
Good night.